Okay, good evening everyone. So I was just saying you've already actually got the answers, so I don't need to do any more, because if you've done the course, you've looked through my notes, then we're done. So I'll leave you to it. Right, so you can ask me questions if you've already read the pack. Sorry, I always have to do this bit, and we always have to dwell on this bit. Very important. Basically, this means anything I'm going to say is my opinion, my rules, my law, and nothing to do with Oracle. So you can't say anything about Oracle based on what I'm about to tell you. Otherwise, Larry will kill me. Okay, introduction. So you're week 10, so I'm going to tell you all about blockchain, maybe. I'll do my intro first. So I'm born into a retail family. That's my great-grandfather up in the top corner. I've done a lot of work in retail finance and tech, so a lot of bringing together, well, blockchain sort of is a natural sort of progression of where we're at. Sainsbury's, M&S Dixon, so I did a lot of work with the big corporate companies. I work with the UK government, UCL, Blockchain Live and others talking about sort of blockchain and how it works within retail and supply chain. So I very much focused on keeping it within retail and supply chain because that's what I know, that's what I've spent my life doing. But I do see all of the parts of it. Retail handbook, if you want to go on Amazon and buy a copy, feel free. You can get a Kindle version if you want to download it now. And at Oracle, I'm Innovation Strategy Director, so I look after, from a finance and HR sort of innovation point of view, so things like AI, machine learning, IoT, and obviously blockchain is the most interesting part of it, and how that works for enterprises and retailers, supply chain, etc. Okay, so the only reference to Bitcoin tonight. What's your experience? So put your hand up if you're a zero. Damn. See, every other time I go, it's zero, but it's impossible to be zero here. 1. By the way, you don't fail if you don't just get these bits. This isn't your marking, I just realised. 2, 3, 10. Good. I don't believe anybody's at 10, because to be an expert, to know everything about blockchain is impossible, because we're a first generation, we're not even anywhere near where it's going to get to. And from the discussions from the previous two speakers, there's so much happening, and their businesses are changing probably every 10 minutes or so. So really interesting place to be. So, because you're all smart, what are these?
Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Litecoin.
Good. What was the first one? Yeah. No. Faircoin. Peercoin. They've all failed. I'll go to the next one. This is it now. Any of those three? This is like an optician test, you know one. Any of the bottom line? Can anyone? No. So Omnitude e-commerce, Nuggets digital ID, and Humanic digital banking across the world. So in essence, normally I'd talk about these a bit more in terms of what these are, and Daily Mail readers is at the top left, and that's 99.9% of the population. And then anybody who's into ICOs, cryptos, probably knows a few of the bottom ones and a load of other stuff. But it's just to gauge where we are and sort of what we're doing. Obviously, you guys are in a very different world. So what I like to do is just put where I think blockchain lives, rather than just sort of talking about blockchain, but it's in all this disruptive tech world. So it's not alone. There's a lot of other parts of it that are actually work together. So I don't like to think of blockchain as just this one amazing technology that's going to change the world. It will do, but it needs the others to help it. So keep it in context where it is. Some of these sort of, working with enterprise, you've got to sort of sell to enterprise why blockchain is important and why they should actually listen to us talking about it. And this was Gartner talking about blockchain as an adolescent. I like that. It's an adolescent, so it's a pain in the backside, basically. And it's in the high business impact. That's important, which basically means to an enterprise business, you need to think about this and look at it. Where it is on the hype curve, where it is on the blockchain, the Bitcoin price graph at the moment, it's down at the bottom. But yeah, it's sort of at the top of inflated expectations. The reality is use cases need to start happening more and more, and that's a lot of what's happening. It's massive. I have to say, in the last few, even months, the amount of conversations from startups and from enterprise of proof of concepts, trials is amazing. Okay, so one way I like to describe it is getting rid of these guys. So it's all about trust. So blockchain is about trust and trusted parties. This is enterprise we're talking about there as well. This is not just small business and sort of government side of it. In essence, all those companies there that are just hid, most of you probably don't trust them, it's fair to say, especially that big F one and the big G one at the top. So, you know, there's a lot of distrust around big companies' data and the rest of it. But they're where we live. We live on Internet 2.0, search, social, e-commerce, product information. So what can blockchain do? Could be Internet 3.0. It's a different way of thinking about what it can be. Trust, transparency, security, quality, reduced costs. You know all these. You just spent 10 weeks doing all this stuff. So possible losers. So if you imagine all these four disappearing, may or may not happen. A public ledger of web links. Why do you have to have Google with its centralized authority making a lot of money from you? Why can't you just have a blockchain-based information? So Wikipedia, but correct Wikipedia, not incorrect Wikipedia. So obviously the challenge there is how do you verify the information? How do you know it's correct? Which is always the challenge around blockchain. But again, Facebook, you know, why do you give Facebook your data and they make X tens of pounds each month from you? You know, and they do what they want with it. And they're very clear, they tell you they own your photos and they can do what they want with them, and yet you still use it.
So I just wanted to, you haven't got any of the Microsoft elements on there. Is that...
In terms of on this bit?
Yeah, even though the one before.
Well, no, it's because this is internet too, but this is about customers. So there are examples. You could use Microsoft if you want. Oracle doesn't like Microsoft, so it's probably not best. Don't quote me on that. But it's the same concept. Remember, I do retail, so I talk with retailers, so they recognise these brands more because it's customer-facing ones. It's the same concepts. Amazon one is interesting. We just had a discussion, actually, with UCL, just about a marketplace. Why do you need Amazon to own this, or eBay, whichever, or JD.com, blah, blah, blah? Why don't we put our goods that we've made onto a blockchain, and then you buy them, you know, customers buy them. That's all it is. Blockchain is perfect for that. Again, verification and things like that is going to be an issue, but once that's sorted and once the rules around that are done, does Amazon need to exist? It's always an interesting one to tell a retailer. And then obviously your certificates, we just saw that at the start, you know, digitising certificates. Did I really work at there? Did I really study at UCL, etc., etc.? Always a really good use case.
So Microsoft is there. They're quite like
Sorry? Oh, yeah, there you are. Yeah, yeah. See? Thank you. We got there. Now, blockchain basics. This is where most enterprises are at the moment. And I show this to enterprises and they laugh. And they probably don't think that they are there, but they are there. So the problem at the moment with enterprise level is everybody's heard about it now. And everybody's heard about Bitcoin and how bad it is and how it's going to kill everyone and everyone's going to be bankrupt and all that good stuff. Now they're hearing it's going to transform everything. So I always say you can't blockchain everything. It's not a verb. But clients say, well, can we blockchain this? Can we blockchain that? So you can't just blockchain everything. It's not going to work. Oh, that's the older one as well, which is quite a good one as well, of where the world is. And I think it's important to think about this as you sort of going out there talking to different businesses and people. The reality is this is where people are. They've heard about it, but it actually takes a lot of time to understand it. You know, you've done 10 weeks learning it properly. You probably did some time before, etc. And some of you will be really advanced. Some of you are still sort of working it through. It's not natural for us to understand how a decentralized economy works when we work for Oracle, when we study at UCL, when we have governments. It actually doesn't make sense. But it does once you get into it. I'm not going through what a blockchain is. Done that one. Enterprise. So this is an important bit of what we look at. So it's a private shared database This one's really important. The consensus of data verification. Wow. How do you do that? So imagine two businesses sharing data. Imagine somebody selling mobile phones and a mobile phone provider. Lots of contracts, going through, lots of contracts the other side. Both have got okay systems, but they say, I sold 1 million, and they say, you sold 900,000. And then they basically have a discussion about what they're going to pay. Really. They still do that in 2018. I was with the client last week. And it's like, you shouldn't do that. If you had the blockchain for this, you wouldn't need to be doing that. But how do you verify the data? Who's in charge of it? The consensus. So the way that enterprise works and reconciliation and audits, it's done after the event. So we do the transactions, we do the data on our database, you do it on yours, and then we have a chat at the end and see what we're doing. With blockchain, you have to do it the other way around. You have to agree how we're going to put the data on and who's going to do what. So it actually swings the whole business process round. So it's actually a lot more than just tech. It's about actually business processes and thinking about things differently. And I do think that consensus is the biggest challenge, because you've got to agree between yourselves who's going to do what and how it's going to work, and then stick to it. And it's an interesting challenge. Obviously, you can control the capacity and cost if you're doing it as a private blockchain. You decide, the size of the blocks, the speed, the hash, all that good stuff. Designated miners, you don't have miners in essence. You have audit admin functions that will do the process, or you don't build it in. Obviously, there's no crypto, so we're not talking about any cryptos. How do enterprises, pay for these things is a different discussion. It's not part of crypto. So if you're using Ethereum or Bitcoin, as the First Lady talked about, you're going to have to put a little bit of Bitcoin on to actually be able to process. This you don't. Collective administration, so if there's 10 different entities, we agree how we do the admin, and we may have our own admin panels that feed into one. And I think the important one is it's blockchain as a tool, not an ideology. And I've been going to meetups for about 3 years now. So some of the first Ethereum meetups, when there was less than this number of people. Now if you go to the London Ethereum meetups, it's like going to a concert, it's crazy. But a lot of the discussions there were about the ideology, which is great. But as a business person, I was like, great, be nice, but it's so far down the line. Let's try and do some practical side, and how does it work practically? So enterprise is all about the practical side of it. It's not about ideology, although sharing and working together is a massive step forward, hence the consensus discussion. So the challenge is it's enabling trust in the peer to be a boundary. So trying to get rid of these intermediaries and these audits and reconciliations, it wastes so much time and money doing that. And that's because they don't trust each other. I don't know if any of you work in big companies or any sort of finance function. The errors and manual data that happens is immense. And even in the biggest global companies, they're still doing it. And you just get a shared service and just employ more people to do it. They make more mistakes because we're humans. So AI is going to be interesting because that can automate a lot more in robotics. So it's interesting there, but it is really high to errors. Delays and offline reconciliations. So if you imagine in retail, you've got physical stores, you've got collection points, you've got marketplaces, you've got your delivery teams, you've got a lot of stock, and you need to know where it is. And quite often this system is different to that, and it either hourly batches or overnight batches, etc. Amazon knows where their stock is all the time. So you're competing against the global giant who knows what stock is where, so they're efficient, they're quick, they're easy, they've got stock accurate. Settlement risk and audit. So imagine in your ERP, your back-end finance systems, when you add things together for the India business, the Italian business and the Greek, and you go, oh, we're 500,000 less than, or 500 million less than we're supposed to be, and you get into a mess there. Fraud. So you've got a lot of fraud that happens and issues cross companies and people just doing things badly. You can't stop that. So I think it was referred to a couple of times before. You can't stop bad behaviour, right? We're humans. some humans are naughty, and they're always going to be. We're not going to change, we're humans. So if a human wants to be bad and naughty, they can be. Blockchain isn't going to fix that. What blockchain will do is show you what happened where quicker, so you can track it and trace it down quicker. But people are still going to put rubbish data on and bad data and do bad things. And then real-time information, which I mentioned. You've probably seen some of these in your course, like the scale of it. You probably wouldn't be doing the course if you didn't think it was going to be big. But you know, you're talking 176 billion of added value. So this is getting rid of intermediaries, making things more efficient, faster. I don't really care what that figure is. Just, you know it's big. That's the main thing to look at. The efficiency is massive, is immense of what this can do in terms of, you know, business processes, procedures, making things more efficient.
That figure is actually quite interesting because if we look at the total market cap of blockchain-related companies at the moment, totals, we're sitting at 290 million.
Well, that's not related in the slightest, really. So if you imagine that 176 billion will come from people like Oracle, people like Microsoft. So you'd need to add IBM obviously is doing a lot of work. So you'd need to add all that together. So what you're talking about is a very small, but ultimately it probably is going to be reflected in 20 years' time or 10 years' time maybe. But at the moment, it's a very small part, it's very small startups trying things. You need to add that together with Accenture, with Oracle, with IBM, with everyone else that's doing a lot of work. You know, because we...
Come to that figure, because what I'm saying is that the total market cap at the moment is almost double that figure.
But that's just the value of the companies that are trading in cryptos. This is about saving businesses that amount of money from their cost structure. So it's
yeah. It's just enterprise kind of.
It's mainly research from enterprise and saying if you took, say, 5% from your finance function, it's those sort of figures. So it's not related to the other bit. I can see some relation, but yeah. I think you've seen some of these. I think the important thing, I always show these people, some of which have been sacked, so it's never a good thing. But it is to show where, you know, these global leaders actually do get that this is important. So no matter what the press says, no matter what's happening, there's so much more going on than actually people realise. And when you start, you know, working with governments and big companies, you see massive amounts of work. It's just nobody's talking about it yet because they either don't understand it or they're still sort of, it's in the sort of corner being tested and played with. To IBM, obviously IBM are doing massive. I think the blockchain will do for transactions what the internet did for information. So it's all about, you know, making transactions of anything, any data. So it's not just about money, it's about transferring data in a transaction. And NASDAQ. You've got all these in your thing, actually, we'll go through them. Oh, no, this is the important one, actually. It's not a very good, I do need to redo the comment, but I like simple things. You know, it's going to transform for retail customers and the way that we do things. Because it's going to change the way of thinking, it'll make things more efficient. More important, there'll be trust and transparency, which are massively key. The business case. This is a really key slide. Blockchain is not a solution to everything. So, ask yourself these questions, then blockchain might be a solution for the issues. So things like, is my business process predominantly cross-department? Are there any cross-system discrepancies? Is there full trust? Does it involve intermediaries, offline batching? Do you need audit trail? Do you need current visibility at multi-party? I.e. the key assets, the key sort of benefits of blockchain. If you ask these questions, then look at blockchain. If it's no, don't bother. It's not, blockchain's not going to fix everything. It's going to make things more complex in some cases. So the business value, so why do we, you know, work with companies? What do we talk about? It's accelerating transactions and new business models and revenue streams. So if you automate things and make things faster, those people can be looking at more interesting things, analysing data, working on new innovations, doing more interesting things instead of processing. You know, use people's brains to look at new things or fix problems or do other things. Automating multi-party business, that's the massive part of it. The reconciliations between big companies are massive. You reduce the cost of intermediaries. You bring in intermediaries. One, they're expensive, and two, how can you trust them as well? You know, it's the same problem. Fraud and regulation. I think regulation more than anything. Imagine a world where we're going to move to a transaction tax world. So where they're going to tax, the government is going to tax your transactions at transactional level. Any corporate is going to sit there and fall off their chair because it's impossible because the data's not that accurate. It's impossible to do. But yet the government just down the road has actually got that ready and they can start to deploy it, they're testing it, which is quite scary when you find out that our government is actually quite far ahead with taxing transactions. Quality of data, avoiding reconciliations and all that side of it. You want good data to just use so your people are using it, analysing it and actually doing good things with it. And then your auditability trust, you know, why do an audit? Let's have the data right at the start when it goes on, rather than going backwards, because you can't change things. You're just wasting time and money then. So it's trust. You have the same copy of the data, transparency, you can see it. You've got all the crypto, sort of cryptography that secures it. Quality and certainty, so you can know where raw materials come from, and you're reducing your costs. Don't know why that one's in as well. Okay, so I've got 16 use cases. These are all what we would be looking at for retailers and supply chain. First two I'm not going to spend a lot of time on because they're the boring ones. Loads of stuff in financial transactions. It's by far the leading edge of it. This is where most of the work happens and the real stuff is happening at the moment. Obviously, cryptocurrencies, payments will start happening that way. Is it going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple? I don't really care. It will still happen in the future. So that's all work in progress, which is good. Supply chain, though, is massive, and you think supply chain can be in any business, really, especially physically moving goods and governments and things like that. Isn't the government the biggest supply chain? Or the army, isn't it? Or something. Which one? Yeah, it's the government, isn't it? Yeah, the government supply chain is like the biggest, like, it's just ridiculously big. Imagine how less tax we'd pay if they were more efficient, though. So, Layla, get on with it. Layla looks after the government, so Oracle. So, supply chain transparency, working together across your business to understand where the supply chain is and what we can do together. That could save tons of money, tons of time, but also waste and things like that. Because every part of the supply chain always builds a little bit extra because you don't know what's coming along the supply chain, and the retailer wants 5,000 garments in that warehouse on that date. So the whole supply chain has waste, and I've seen it through from shirts manufacturing for a lot of years where the waste is just massive. There's so much at every stage, buttons, cotton, finished goods, etc. Global shipping, so what was it, something like 40 odd pieces of paper or something? So yeah, there's something like for shipping, there's still like 40 odd pieces of paper for shipping documents. It is 2018. Like, I mean, the more I've got into this is amazing. It's just fascinating that we still do this. The customs, they're stamping things, and it's like, wow. I mean, the difference that would make. Imagine the shipping around the world, which is only growing as we get more sort of globalised. It's just immense. It's unbelievable, that side of it. But you would know what's coming, what's on the cargo, what temperature is, what's this, that, and the other, and then you can get all your lorries ready to go and take it, put it in straight to the store. At the moment, you go, yeah, well, I think the ship will arrive at about 10 p.m. Might do. Oh no, it's going to Folkestone. I don't know where it's going. It's like, how can you not know where a ship is and what it's like? Because there's loads of different parties. So that does happen. I've spoken to shipping, and it does happen. But there's lots of different parties, so it's miscommunication. They actually do know, but it's some other company further down.
Can I just ask a question? What are your views on the current blockchain SMEs that are trying to tackle that?
Well, I suppose in terms of, I don't know them specifically, but I think so one thing that I would say to people is, one good thing with blockchain is, apart from trust, collaboration and working together more, it is actually leveling the playing field between big and small. Because Oracle does not know more than the 2 startups that we saw in here. Yeah. So neither does IBM or anyone else. So we're all in this world where we're all learning together. Do we have significantly more resources? Yeah, of course we do. But actually, does that make a difference? Maybe not. If you're a well-funded startup with people who really get that specific issue. So I think all of these, sort of use cases, the winners could be the next Oracles, or they could be a brand new startup that we've never heard of that fix these. But it's about understanding what the businesses need. So what does DP World or, who was P&O Shipping, what do they actually need? Which bits of it do you need to blockchain, which don't you? So I think there's quite a lot of startups and smaller businesses going for things that you go, it's not really a problem. Yes, blockchain is interesting, but it's not really a problem. That one obviously is a massive problem. But I think that's complex because you're talking about government systems as well as international travel, as well as different companies, as well as all the regulations if there's any chemicals and dodgy things in it. It's like, that's actually why it's so complex, because nobody wants to tackle it. And I'm not sure a small company could tackle it. Definitely not on their own, but if they collaborated, the power of, the new way of thinking.
I guess it also depends on how much they've raised from ICO and how quickly they can move.
It's the team and money, obviously. It's resources, and so it's money and people. So, they don't necessarily live in, Google, Amazon, Oracle. They don't necessarily live in a startup either. I think the best solutions to this would be working together. And what we're trying to do is work a lot more with everyone in the ecosystem and start to work on solutions. All of a sudden, when it comes to real money, I guarantee it'll be like, you can disappear. And all of a sudden, the shutters will come down. So, but at the moment, we're at the good stage where we're all working together and sharing information, so, which is good.
Would you say the money's where in the consultancy piece? Because if it's so complex.
Yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, I was talking to Hitachi Consulting, actually, this afternoon. And, it's one of our partners. We work, love them, hate them closely-ish. And we were talking about sort of what things are happening and where things are happening. And where we got to is the people we're doing this for, the big companies, don't really get it. So actually, it doesn't matter whether you go or I go, we all need to go, because the tech element is actually the easy bit. And, I say this to blockchain, but that's not the hard bit. Building the tech is fairly easy as long as it's not rocket science once you learn it. What is the complicated bit is working together, consensus and those sorts of things. That's the problem. And changing from we're going to do the year-end audit, the month-end audit, to we're going to make things right before they go on, which is like, really, we've never done that. So there's a whole way of thinking, and there's the millennials that are coming through and starting to be in middle management positions and more, they get these things a lot more. There is a generation thing that's quite clear. So it is sort of trying to work with all
So what we say now is building the information architecture, which is going to inform the technology architecture.
Yeah, it's a lot more about the processes and the people than it is about the systems, this. So in a way, it's weird that it's being driven by tech, because it's actually not a tech issue. It's a business process issue. It's a normal business issue. So consulting, yes, is definitely going to, but consulting as it sits today needs to change as well, because the Big Four and that sort of thing need to. So there's a whole new world. The sourcing side of it, so finding your best supplier, the cost of it, comparison. If you had blockchain data which was shared, you can find the cheapest, the best quality, the fastest, and you can make decisions better on informed data. Certification, authentication, we've talked about that really with the certificates. It's the same type of thing. Knowing if you've got an Armani shirt or anything, do you know it's actually from Armani or is it from Primani instead? It's those sorts of things. Luxury retailers are looking at all of that. There's a load of work with luxury brands. We're working with an olive oil company in Italy on that. So, because they want you to know that the olives were grown in Tuscany and this is the olive. Not probably the exact olive, but the field or whatever. I'm not sure we're taking photos of each olive, but wouldn't be good. But so that's happening. So that we want to know as humans, we're starting to know where does it come from, how's it made, Is it a commercial business yet? Not convinced. but it's starting to, and definitely for luxury brands, it's important. All your inventory management, so when the finished items get into your warehouse network and everywhere, where is it, what's happening with it? M&S, big retailers now, John Lewis, Profits Warning, all of these retailers have the most complex networks and they just don't talk to each other. So this is warehouse system A, this is warehouse system B, this is the collector store system, this is outsourced to DHL. All their stock is just in a mess. So they can't track it, they can't do orders properly. That's why they've got big issues in terms of profits warning. Traceability, really important for food. A good case study is to just Google Mango Walmart, blockchain obviously, but they've done a whole sort of traceability of mangoes from the mango farms through to the different products it ends up in. And I can't remember the exact figures, but it took something like 2 weeks for them to find out every part of the supply chain that the mangoes adhere. With blockchain, it then took them 3 or 4 minutes. So obviously if that's something, like salmonella or something, quite a bad illness, they can straight away find out which factory it went through, which farm it came from. So straight away, instead of going, we've got 1,000 mango farms, can you all go out to the mango farms and see? They know it came from mango farm A, B, and C and go straight there. So that's a really, really important one. There's a lot of work. Also with IoT, GPS, pharmaceuticals. So we've got something called cold chain. Cold chain is monitoring the temperature and GPS tracking of your, in essence, pharmaceuticals. So for medical, medicine needs to be at X degrees. What normally you do, you measure the lorry, then you shut it, then the driver goes to the middle of the desert, opens the door, has a cigarette, leaves the door open in the middle of the desert for a week, or actually in London, because it's the same temperature. Then he closes it all, and he gets back to it, and you measure it, and you go, yeah, 5 degrees. It's 5 degrees. The whole product's ruined. Obviously, they don't do that. But in essence, this tracks it the whole way through the temperature, and all that's put on blockchain. So you know when the drugs arrived, or the doctor knows that it was always at 5 degrees, or whatever the temperature. So that's quite cool, especially for things like that, which need to be specific.
So these are all really interesting. In your opinion, how many of these could be just as achievable with traditional tech?
These are the ones that we've chosen that blockchain makes the difference. So if you go back to the questions, so normal tech is doing it, but these are all the problems you've got. So can database, say current partner databases be linked together better and not use blockchain? Yes. But it's not happened now, it's never going to happen. So you're right, so from a pure tech point of view, some of this could be just database A and B talking together properly and sharing transactions openly and the rest of it. That doesn't happen in business because I don't trust you. I might say that I do, but I don't. I'm a retailer, you're a supplier. I don't trust you, I don't like you at all. But I'm going to say we do, and we're going to pretend, and then we're going to share data, but we're not. So what you need is blockchain to make that happen. It's the trust element. So you're right, from a technical point of view, do you need this? Probably not. But to change it, to get the benefits of this, you have to use blockchain because it's the only way you're going to change the trust. Well, it's the way to try it at the moment. If that doesn't work, then we'll see other ways.
See, I'm not involved in retail, so I don't understand the supply chain use cases particularly well. Certainly in banking, we have the same problem with trust and the different parties and counterparties that we deal with. But the problem is agreeing on those integration standards.
Yes.
That's what prevents us from moving forward.
Yeah.
Not the tech.
Yeah. It's the same. So it's like I said, you need to do the consensus, agree on the integration metrics or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, at the start.
But you've got that with blockchain as well.
Well, you have, but you've also, the difference is, I see your data, you see mine. Whereas before, I go, right, on my database, I'm going to have that. And I'm going to tell you that I'm sharing A, B, and C data, but I'm not. I'm showing you a shadow copy 2, or 3, 4, and 5. You can't do that. Blockchain is, if it says 1, it says 1. If it says 10, it says 10. We know, so that's the difference. You can't mess with the tech, the immutability and that side of it. So once you agree how you're going to do, excuse me, put the data in the consensus, so I know where you're coming from, and I sit there going round and round going, should we, shouldn't we, can we, can't we? It's like, these are big issues that need fixing. Blockchain can fix them. Let's try them. I know, and I had the discussion with Hitachi and saying our biggest challenge is getting the retailers and the suppliers to agree on these things and actually sit around and do that. At the moment they are. We're working with most of the big retailers and some suppliers, but the whole supply chain, don't know yet. It's a big thing. So it's one step at a time, show the benefits, and then see, hopefully that goes, yeah, this does work. We can work in that way.
I'm just wondering, in the implementation of these solutions, what is your, return on investment, or how soon have you done any studies as to how soon you could claw back all the...
Yeah, so that's the question, obvious question that people want to know. At this stage, most of these are proof of concept from a tech and process point of view. The benefits will then be measured after. So a lot of this is about, it will make things maybe slightly cheaper, may not be significantly cheaper, but it'll make it more efficient and do other things. So most of these benefits are predicated on non-finance and efficiencies. We hope to do the proof of concepts and go, oh, by the way, it saves you 10%, and that's the expectation, there's going to be a saving. But we're saying, look, you need to understand your supply chain, where mangoes or whatever went through the supply chain so that you can track them all, and you can't do that now. So it was 2 weeks, now it's 4 minutes. That's a massive benefit. Does it cost you any more? No. Did you change your process? Yes. Is it more efficient? Fingers crossed. But we're at that stage
So
sort of next.
But what you must be proving to them that it doesn't cost them any more than...
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the given bit, that it can't cost more than that. And if the proofs of concept did show that, it would be gone. Because obviously, cost is... So it can't cost more, and it should cost quite a bit less. But these are all about other benefits that are really important to supply chain. Provenance, so again, listing all the parts, so having a list of exactly, which cotton tree this came from, which mill it was spun in, where it is sort of stitched together, etc. People want that sort of, they say they want that sort of information again. Is it useful? I don't know yet, I'm not sure. But, it's something that can be done. Counterfeit, so we talked about that in terms of, the Armanis of the world and making sure that's tracked. But also, actually, the interesting one is the Second Life market, or Second Love, or whatever it's called now. But if high-value items, you might not like Armani anymore, so you might want to sell it. The next person, do they know that it is Armani and the rest of it? Also, Armani wants to know what happens to their products. So some of the big brands, and one of the watch manufacturers is doing that, and saying, where does my watch go next? So people wear it for a period of time, and then they get rid of it. What do they do with it next? So it's quite interesting tracking it from a business point of view, but also knowing that it is a real Nokia watch. Couple non-supply chain, last two. So loyalty, you've all got loyalty cards. You probably don't really use them much now, do you? Does anybody really use them much? No. Why don't you use loyalty cards?
Difficult to maintain, not interoperable.
They're a pain in the backside, aren't they? And you have a wallet full of 20 different cards, and you might have a few on a QR code on your phone, and so you just go, forget it. It's not worth, because all they're doing is using my data anyway. So, but imagine loyalty, and the reason that is because the loyalty systems are not working together and sort of transparent and shared. So, the Nectar scheme, which is finished now with the other side of it, but when Nectar had different partners, again, it was, I'll share my data with you and it'll be overnight transaction. Whereas if you put it all on blockchain together, I could share my British Airways points and swap them for Hilton or change them for Lyon or whatever. So you can start to merge together because you put all the data on the blockchain, which we will see and share. So customers benefit well, but also loyalty points will actually start being used again properly. And then gift cards, similar. It's probably quite specific for retail, but gift card technology is crap at best. And it's normally a 24-hour delay, so the fraud in terms of gift cards is immense. You can't really track them, you don't know what things are happening with it. So from a retailer point of view, gift cards are awful. They're not good at all, because you don't know a lot about them. Whereas actually for customer and for customer retention, it's a really good tool. So putting that on the blockchain would really help. And then, last two, I forgot about these two because they get really boring now. But warranties, you know, when you buy a product and you get a 2-year warranty and a 5-year warranty, and then you lose the receipt and all that good stuff. So imagine if that's it's an obvious one for blockchain, really. You put all the data on the blockchain, and then if it's a Samsung TV, you can in essence phone them and they go, oh yeah, it was that product you bought and things like that. So that's good. And then the same with refunds. You know, refunds, I'm not convinced blockchain is as useful, but again with refunds, if you just have one QR code that you can scan and it's got all the data and all your history, it's a lot easier than where's my receipt and what did I do with it, etc. I've added to these since last time I did it, so I've been doing too much work now. This is your fault, this bit. So identity, we've just had loads on that, I don't need to talk about that at all. And then tokenization of everything, that's my new one that I'm looking at the moment. But imagine a world of Tesco tokens. Isn't it awful? But sorry, if anyone's from Tesco, isn't it great? But imagine, you get paid in Tesco tokens and you go to the shop and use Tesco tokens. You give each other Tesco tokens. Weird, isn't it? That's why I think there's quite a lot of serious benefits around tokenizing that sort of thing, also tokenizing different parts of data and things. So it's something that we're looking at quite new, but I think it's going to take off. And ICOs, in a way, are doing that sort of thing. They're tokenizing lots of random things that may or may not work. And there you are. Everything that I said was rubbish, and ignore everything I said. Come.
I just wonder whether you could go into a bit more detail and give some more insight about your views on the placement of an Amazon or a Rakuten or something like that.
In what way? Well,
I understand obviously the provenance and supply chain, various different use cases, etc.
Yeah.
But I'm particularly interested in this idea of creating new markets.
So it's a market, yeah. So it's actually interesting because I'm more thinking I need to put marketplace actually as a use case. I suppose I've taken it for granted in everything I've been talking about, but more and more people are saying that, and I'm like going, well, you just get rid of Amazon. You have, in essence, you put your products on. Now, how you verify and who verifies it, I don't know. I've not got my head around that bit, but that's the bit that you need to work out. Maybe you've got like a trust rating, so you're a trusted seller, an eBay type scenario. So I put my 25 jumpers on there, sell them, and you all give me a rating, and that makes, we know he sells really good jumpers. Because all you're doing is putting the data, you're matching supply and demand, which is all what marketplaces ever did. But at the moment, correct or not, I don't know, Amazon, JD.com, Alibaba, eBay, they may or may not be manipulating what you see when you search for the products, and they may or may not be manipulating what they want, especially the products they buy as Amazon. So if that disappeared, you don't need, who maintains it? You all maintain a copy of your data, so you don't need that. So it makes sense to have a marketplace. Who markets it though? I don't know. So is there a token where we have to use and then that pays for marketing or customer acquisition? Or
maybe the suppliers market, the platform itself, right?
Exactly. There's a lot to look at in that, but it is an interesting one. I think it's something I need to sort of probably put more thoughts down about it.
And there's like a B2B element, right? So the problem that I'm wrapping my head around at the moment is that in the education space, right, edtech suppliers or suppliers of products and services to any sort of learning providers, there isn't really any sort of trusted marketplace, right?
Yeah.
There's trade shows where it's like deer in headlights, and other than that, there's reseller catalogs and things like that.
Yeah.
There's got to be a better way of doing it.
Yeah.
Government don't want to own how to run that marketplace. The demand side doesn't want to necessarily.
I think it's got to come from the suppliers, hasn't it? And there's got to be demand for it. But I think you're right. The suppliers are probably ones that need to get together and say, we'll get together and we'll make the education marketplace, whatever you want to call it. And they put it together and then they put in 20 quid each. And that's used for marketing to the end users. So it's probably that sort of way of doing it. But marketplaces, blockchain makes sense at marketplaces because it is buyers and sellers match. We were talking about Uber. So it's blockchaining ride sharing, that's what he said, didn't he? So in essence, you've got drivers who have a car and you want to get somewhere. The driver there might say, actually, I can do it for 10 quid because I'm going home after that. Or actually, it's 50 quid because I'm not going that way. And you go, well, I need to go quickly, and you've got the faster car. So again, you put your data on, and you can pick and choose. It's quite a simple system. Trust and all the rest of it, and drivers and that. So again, there's all these other bits to think about, but technically and process it, they could all work.
There's not been much talk. There's not been much talk in our
You're getting evils.
on advertising and programmatic and
Yeah.
supplier and demand. And there are two sections. There are two sides to that, and there are middlemen who are coining it.
Yeah. I've steered clear of advertising because it is it's another use case or number of use cases which we've not looked at yet. So what we're looking at the moment is the big wins, the most beneficial to our clients, which is supply chain in essence. Marketing will be next down the line, I think, and loyalty.
Who is in that space of blockchain?
Yeah, you've got a BAT, haven't you? Yeah, but I'm not sure. Basic attention token. I get their philosophy and what they're trying to do, but you're dealing with global giants who are not going to let this go. I think you're fighting uphill at this stage. I wouldn't suggest it's worth looking too much into that yet. You know, things like supply chain, there's efficiency benefits, there's the rest of it. Companies will buy into that.
There's a programmatic marketplace that's huge right now, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about attention and all that. I'm talking about supply and demand for advertising suppliers and media platforms who are, forget about the attention.
Yeah. But I suppose you can use blockchain for that. But again, it's also quite a technical market. It's not an easy. A product is easy. A physical thing is easy. Advertising is, is it TV? Is it, is it, your banners? Is it your sort of all that side of it? Is it? You can put all that into a database and you could choose it, but I don't think people really get digital marketing enough yet to move to that stage. I think the people, the middlemen are coining it in because the market's still quite new and they're still learning. But it's definitely, again, it's another use case that will sort of appear.